You know, he's gonna have to absorb the kind of impact, and he's smart. He's doing it all right. I love the way the body looks right now because I do understand that he's still got room.
6 weeks.
He's still got room. You know, it'd be different if you know,
this was fight week.
Yeah.
Right.
You know?
Terence Crawford is packing on some weight to prepare to fight Canelo Alvarez, and that statement alone has given boxing a jolt of electricity. Sean Porter was saying that Terence Crawford has always been thought to be naturally a bigger fighter than people think, even when he's fighting at welterweight. He noted that before dropping down to cut to 147 pounds, Crawford's walking around size had him looking physically substantial already. Porter stated this was not a new development. It was always Crawford's natural build.
Yeah. So when we talk about the size, I just need everybody to understand that that's how we look when we walk around before we have to cut down to 147 pounds.
Ooh,
so that's always
a lot
been
of weight, Sean.
Yeah, it's always
How
been.
you do it, Sean?
I don't know. I was eating the air.
Porter went on to note that Crawford's current training has taken his physique to the next level. He talked about how Crawford has been putting on muscle via weight training, building something not popular in boxing. In the early days of the sport, fighters were told to avoid weights, with training mainly consisting of body weight only movements like push-ups and chin-ups to remain lean and quick.
Kid, right? So now he's basically transitioned his body, packing on the mass, hitting the weights and things like that. And interesting thing is that's always a no-no in boxing. Has, you know, historically been
Emmanuel hated it.
A no-no. We don't hit weights, you know, we stand away from anything that, you know, push-ups, that's it, you know.
Never look like Anthony Joshua.
Chin-ups, that's it, you know.
Sean Porter recalled his style against Terence Crawford, and he had made a point in saying that Crawford was the smartest fighter he had ever stood in the ring with. He recognized that Crawford read opponents and adjusted extremely good. He claimed, "I fought Crawford, and I can tell you, he's the smartest fighter I've ever been in the ring with. But size matters, and Canelo's size is going to be a real problem for him." Terence Crawford has sparked a social media sensation with a recent training video showing the added and fleshed out physique. His thicker frame, his better defined muscles, and his beefed up physique were soon noted by fans, with some wondering he may be adding muscle to tackle the problem of a bigger man like Canelo Alvarez. Paulie Malignaggi was talking about the prevailing notion in boxing that trying to bulk up can translate into a loss of speed. He admitted that this could occur, but it does not necessarily imply that the fighter will fight poorly at a higher weight. To illustrate his argument, he placed the case of Terence Crawford in history and the example of Roy Jones Jr. and Manny Pacquiao, who both gained more muscle and went up in weight without losing any efficacy.
Slow down a little bit, but that doesn't mean he's gonna be ineffective at that weight. I think it's a bona fide good point to make. Sometimes it does wind up that way, but I'll give you Roy Jones Jr. You know, Roy Jones Jr. You know, put on weight, was muscular as he moved up the weight classes, and it didn't affect him. Good old Manny Pacquiao did the same thing, you know. So you know, there's times where it affects, and there's times where, you know, I guess if you put it on the right way.
Paulie Malignaggi furthered his comment by outlining that weight gain leading up to a fight is not a simple matter of gaining weight, muscle, but rather having to train with that new weight to figure out how it impacts performance. He observed that during camp, a fighter can adapt either by cutting weight in case he finds himself restricted by it, or keeping it the same in case he is performing well.
You're gonna be sparring with this added weight, you're gonna be doing the boxing training with this added weight, so you're gonna know how to, you know, maybe taper it down if you need to, or keep it going if you need to. You know, I think over the course of camp, if you start to feel too yoked up, and you know, you get big, and then, you know, you're sacrificing reflexes, you're sacrificing athleticism, I think you're gonna feel it. You know, you have plenty of time to train for the fight, so you'll make the proper adjustments.
The bulking up provoked debates in the boxing communities. Some commended the effort and tactfulness of the change. The fans just questioned whether or not the additional bulk would have any impact on his signature speed and fluidity. No matter what the thoughts, Crawford himself made it quite evident through the photos that he has pushed his body to new limits, which has a message to it that he is up to preparing his body to face the biggest challenge of his professional life. Chris Algieri, in the run-up to the fight, was talking about the question marks about the weight Terence Crawford is currently using. There are several weeks of camp to go yet, he said, and it is hard to judge exactly what Crawford stands. The reason why we cannot take what Crawford says as gospel truth is documented by Algieri when he had thrown out exaggerated weights to get the media juices flowing, even to Crawford.
But listen, we're still 4 or 5 weeks away. I don't know exactly what Terence is weighing right now, and even if he does say what he weighs, man, he's gone out there and said he's weighed, you know, all types of crazy numbers just to get people to get media to respond. So it's really not really going to know until the fight and we see these guys next to each other. He might look bigger right now, but he might not be that heavy. He might still be in the range that these guys are targeting for the fight itself.
Chris Algieri followed up that the move of Crawford to gain size may be strategic, since the battle to add force might just be strategic. He proposed that there is an unnecessary muscle in case Crawford needs to use his strength on others, and it will not require as much movement within the ring. Algieri also observed that this extra weight may be in relation to enhancing durability, considering that Canelo is a fast and powerful punching fighter. He said, "The fact that he's putting on this weight kind of tells me that he's trying to make this more of a physical fight, try to impose his strength in the fight and not move around as much, or not have to move around as much. Or it could be a durability thing. He expects to get hit because Canelo does have explosive fast hands. It is not an instant negotiation of a fight, it is rather the end of years of discussions, prophecies, and oblique punches they have thrown at each other during interviews and on social networks. The fans have always dreamed of seeing the extravaganza of watching two pound-for-pound elites fighting each other inside the ring, and now that is getting closer to reality." Virgil Ortiz has recently appeared in a podcast where he spoke about the most awaited match between Canelo Alvarez and Terence Crawford. Ortiz also expressed a fear that has been described by numerous onlookers, even though he also commended the talent and achievements of Crawford.
Would you say he's a very smart fighter?
Yes.
Very calculated,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Don't you think that maybe
He was concentrating on the difficulty that Crawford had to be moving up in weight to contest a naturally bigger and stronger man. Ortiz wondered if Crawford would be able to handle the extra weight without turning in a subpar performance, as the size and power advantage against Canelo might be a major factor that would decide to overpower the opponent.
Crawford and everything that he's doing, but he just moved up from 147, so I'm just gonna treat him as a 147 pounder. He's jumping up 3 weight classes to fight someone who was like the #1 fighter in all of boxing, you know. It's not like he's jumping up to fight. The jump would be hard, even if it was just like some top 10,
Right, yeah.
you know.
That's a fact.
But he was the #1 guy.
With the excitement piling up, the speculations are pouring in all directions of the sport. It is interesting to view how the intelligent fighting style of Crawford will work against a physically larger opponent. And Dan Rafael recently revisited his experience during his visit to the training camp of Terence Crawford when he visited Canelo Alvarez. He detailed Crawford as being buried in preparation, with full knowledge of the incentives that are at play in such an epic fight. In an interview with Rafael, Crawford never mentioned anything about the oppression and burden of being over and into himself. He rather seemed to want to devote all of that to his job. The veteran journalist observed the seriousness and accuracy in the Crawford routine, stating that he could compete at the same magnitude as the fight. Seeing the intensity and focus of Rafael is impressive and memorable.
I was really excited that Terence Crawford, when we were going through some of the historical things that could take place if he wins this fight, what they would mean. And at the end of that part of the conversation, he says, there's a lot riding on this fight. Like, he knows it. I don't think he feels pressure from it. I think he embraces that. But I like to hear that the fighter understands the magnitude of this fight and embraces that and realizes, like the general public that follows boxing or the media, that this is a bigger deal than your average fight, and that he is keenly aware of that. So I love that.
The same questions are raised when it comes to wondering how Canelo, a veteran at this point in his career, with a plethora of high-stakes fights now under his belt, can handle a figure as flexible as Alvarez that has yet to be touched. There is a division in fandom, not only in countries, but in boxing philosophy. Those that favor skill and ring IQ tend to prefer Crawford. Those that give more weight to power, pressure, and physical domination of the fight tend to favor Canelo. The new bulked-up body of Terence Crawford has already been a subject of discussion online, online, but in his visit to Club Shay Shay, the former also discussed the nature of his mentality before a possible fight with Canelo Alvarez. He said that, according to him, Canelo is not too big for him. Crawford dissected the physical comparison in his mind and observed that though Canelo belongs to a heavier weight division, he does not measure up taller in size by much. Crawford went on further to state that he was sure that a bout between him and Canelo Alvarez would be the grandest possible match that could ever take place in the boxing rings currently. He conceded that there are a lot of fans who would like to see Canelo fight with David Benavidez, but he also admitted that it would be a really good fight, but he feels a black versus Mexican rivalry would be such a big storyline and embedded in history that his fight with Canelo would drive a larger audience.
There's no fighter out right now that's bigger than Crawford Canelo. No fight.
I agree. I agree.
You know, so a lot of people say, oh, well, Benavidez, everybody want him to fight Benavidez. And that's a great fight. And that's a damn good fight.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but given the circumstances of
Robert Garcia put his straightforward opinion on how weight and muscle gain would affect the match. He even implied that by Gervonta's camp being more geared up to add and take punches and make it through the rounds, it could indicate that they are seeking to win the bout rather than a knockout.
I think gaining too much weight and too much muscle might affect them. If they're thinking of surviving and being able to take a punch and being able to go rounds, then they're trying to maybe go the distance and they'll be happy with that. But I think Crawford's natural talent.
Robert Garcia also talked about the superior skills of Crawford, but complained that the extra weight might damage his performance. He clarified that Crawford has an elite combination, speed, and footwork, but adding unnecessarily too much mass may make Crawford slow. Porter argued that since the only element that Crawford was considering was to put on muscle to withstand the fight, then he intended to perhaps survive the battle as opposed to winning it.
We give Crawford a chance because we know how good he is, how, you know, his skills, his speed, his combinations. But if he's gaining so much weight, he might not be able to do those. He might not be able to have those same skills when it comes to his speed, his footwork, because of the weight. So we'll see. You know, I just hope he's not just training and getting big to survive and go the distance, because maybe that's a win for him. Maybe he's thinking, if I go the distance with him.
He responded by saying that he continued to think that Crawford could take rounds and he could even win the fight, but he cautioned that should Crawford come in too heavy, this would hold him back, and he would then be reduced to some exchanges, in which the real danger would tell. He then said, I expect Crawford to actually pull off some runs and maybe pull off the fight, but if he's too heavy, too big, he's going to get hit and he's going to have to exchange punches, and that's where the danger comes in. Freddie Roach pointed out that Canelo has always met elite competition at higher weight categories, meaning he has the advantage of size and experience at those extremes. That said, Roach clarified that Crawford is an entirely different level in terms of ring intelligence, so if somebody has the tactical prowess and ability to adapt as required to solve the puzzle that Canelo provides, it would be Crawford. He said, Canelo's the bigger man, and he's fought the better competition at higher weights, but Crawford's intelligence is unmatched. If anyone can figure Canelo out, it's him. Jack Catterall, who has sparred before with Canelo Alvarez, posted some of his thoughts on the upcoming fight with Terence Crawford. He acknowledged that his forecast had been alternating back and forth when he took a look at the abilities of both men who are elite fighters on their rights. Eventually, Catterall tended to Crawford by telling him that he would not call it upset, but still the Crawford was likely to win.
You know what, I've been changing my mind, chopping and changing. Two tremendous fighters in their own right. I won't call it an upset, but I'm going for a Crawford victory.
We all know that Terence Crawford, being a master technician, has a rare talent for moving freely between both orthodox and southpaw stances. He is fantastically adaptable. Not only does he work a game plan, he builds it as he goes, reading the moves of his opponent and reacting to them. His finishing instinct is one of the best in the sport, and he in most occasions seals the show when he feels that the opponent is vulnerable. The young talent Kermel Moton had no reservations when it came to giving his suggestion on this matchup. He removed the hype and fan bias and was just looking at what was in the cold reality before him. This is not a fight you can easily pick the winner of. That is what makes it electric. Each fighter will possess their set of skills, and there will not be a lack of resources that will not elevate arms to the sky.
I think it'll go decision.
I think so
too. I don't see either of them getting stopped.
All of the records are out the window, all of the noise is out the window, so when the ball pops, it is a matter of who can perform best under pressure. One mistake or one just-in-time step, and history will be changed. To Moten, it will be neither a knockout nor a one-sided performance, but a fight with incessant activity up to the last round on.
I could give you a reason why Canelo could win, but I could also give you a reason why Crawford could win. So it's like, I don't know, it's just whoever's the better man that day.
Andre Ward had his take on the situation that the fight would be whoever could adapt the least as the rounds go on. He believed Canelo had the belt to dictate the pace in the early going, but believes once Crawford found his groove, which he stated, the momentum could switch entirely. He expressed, "This fight comes down to adjustments. Canelo can win early, but Crawford will start to read him, and once that happens, it becomes a different fight." That, as they say, is when legends talk and the boxing community pays attention, and that is Nyoka when it comes to outspoken legends like Andre Ward. When this collision turns into reality, it is no longer a battle, but a master lesson on tactics, here, and adaptability. Who will outstump the other? That is the question, Kane. Who is already on the ascendancy using his dominance, or Crawford, who is on a strategy to take over in the middle of the fight? Leave your predictions below, press that like button when you are ready to go to war within the ropes, and subscribe to all the twists and turns on the drive to this great match.